Well, the whole goal of the library is that this is digital and it's accessible. If you have internet access, you can access the stories, the artifacts, the history, anywhere, anytime. A great part of this journey was actually with you when we went to the Minnesota Historical Society and we went to find your original chartering documents. And you'll remember we went down to the warehouse and we found your box, and it had the original charter law for the nation in it. But nobody could have found that online. They would have had to travel to Minnesota, go to the Historical Society, have the machine go out to row 27, level 16, box 21, and come back. That's what we're trying to accomplish, is to capture that history in a way that's digitized and easily accessible for people to learn the lessons and preserve the history.
I think a lot of people just think this is all digitized, and it isn't done automatically. It's really hard to get. Except that at the Clinton Library, we were very pleased to find that about 80% of his documents on education policy are already digitized, so we have a head start with that.
Well, absolutely. And if you just think about the nation's first law passing in 1991 and where we were with technology to where technology is now in 2018, there's certainly been great advancements. And so where people cycled in the law and in the process, we have different access to digital records versus artifacts that have to be digitized. But that's all part of the journey. And again, the main goal is to make this information, the lessons learned, the stories, accessible for anybody that wants to learn and wants to build off of what's been done and the giants that have come before us.
And talk about how those stories will form from each state.
Well, that's really critical because, as we've heard, the chartering idea is really a state-based initiative. And so each law is passed by that state, right? That group of legislators, that governor that signs the bill. And so we're tackling this with the initial states of Minnesota, Michigan, and Colorado. So we're tackling that by the initial states of Minnesota and Michigan and Colorado. California is coming in close behind. And each state has its own story, its own setting politically, what was happening at the time, the situation on the ground. And so capturing the stories from the people that were part of that gave the blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen is really powerful. But there's also a national movement. And so part of what we're also trying to do is capture that. Where did the ideas come from? How were they diffused? How were they shared? Who were the influence makers? How did they win the hearts and minds? We heard from Will Marshall in part of this about persuasion, right? And there's persuasion that happens at all levels, from the local level to the state level to the national level. We want people to see how that fits together, where it departs, but that diffusion of ideas is really an important part of the story.